ready for our speakers. We will open with some remarks from each of our spokespeople, starting with Mr. Jiří, Chairman of the Board of Directors of Prague Airport. Please, Mr. Post.
Very good morning.
Very good morning. Welcome to annual Congress of ACI. I was guided to speak a little bit about Prague Airport, where we are. So I'd like to mention that we are just ending the very specific period, post-COVID period, when we were struggling with a lot of additional impacts on our operation from the pandemic, but of course the Ukraine war, closure of airspace, but also losing 16 destinations with 1.6 million passengers annually coming from Ukraine and Russia to Prague. It's a very important market for us. And last but not least, we finally lost Czech Airlines after more than 100 years operation as a former key account of Prague Airport. So altogether we lost 3.5 million passengers compared to 2019. Well, the positive segment was the Czech citizens outgoing holidays, which actually increased compared to 2019 by 50%. So altogether, our last year, 2025, we leveled the record year 2019 with 17.8 million passengers flown by more than 80 airlines to almost 200 destinations. I also made a significant profit. Czech was a record profit of the airport in history in an amount of 120 million euros. Now it's another phase we entering, another period which our capacities, especially the capacities, some touch points in the terminals are at its edge. So we prepared a very complex modernization program which got 3 pillars. First pillar, it's also very important, is connectivity to the airport. It's the road access, parking spaces, which will increase by almost 200%. And what is very important is ongoing project of rail connection to the airport. Finally, we will get rail connection not only to the city center, but also to wider catchment area to improve the connectivity to the airport. Following phase, second phase, is modernization of our terminals. Terminal 2 extension with 16 new boarding gates and almost doubling the peak hour capacity. Also enlarging the retail space, lounges, and introducing new technologies, together with additional building to Terminal 1, where we finally centralize the security. So this is the second phase, which will hopefully be finished in 2033, and the amount of investment we expect to be probably around 1.5 billion euros. We have a third phase with our modernization, which is a project of a new power runway. Actually, it's modification of runway system because we already have 2 runways, but they are cross with limited dual operation, and the second runway is actually oriented and heading over the very populated area in Prague 5 particularly. So this project will not only bring the additional peak hour capacity and safety, but most importantly, will be significant contribution to the environment, because we will shut down the cross runway and we will only operate the east-west directions. So this is a short brief of Prague Airport. Of course, our top priority is to operate the airport safely, securely, sustainably, and also our top priority is passenger satisfaction. And second, also very important priority is to develop the network, especially long haul routes, which are bringing to Prague interesting market segments and improving the connectivity not only for tourists but also for business. So this is our nearest priorities. And last but not least, what has been already mentioned at the meeting this morning for the airport is important, the diversification, so we can't only count on traffic growth, which will not be as high as been in the last period. So diversification means to increase the non-aviation revenues through also the extending our services at the airport, but also, it's very important, we are ready to address the potential of developing the airport city concept. At the time being, the Prague airport has 1 million square meters available for non-aviation development. If we finally put into operation new power runway and shut down the cross runway, it will be another 2 million square meters land available for non-aviation development, which will not only improve the non-aviation revenues but also bring to the area more people, and there are a lot of additional synergies. So those are our top priorities, and it's probably all for now. I'm ready for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boss. Now we're going to move to Minister Mrázová. Please take it away.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to welcome you to Prague for the ACI Europe Annual Congress and General Assembly. The fact that ACI Europe has chosen Prague to host this prestigious gathering is a recognition of the growing importance of the Czech Republic on the map of European aviation. It also demonstrates the vital role that connectivity plays in the prosperity and competitiveness of our country. For the Czech Republic, aviation is far more than a means of transport. We see air connectivity as a key enabler of tourism, economic development, and international competitiveness. Without connectivity, there can be no thriving tourism sector and no fully integrated economy. That is why the Czech government regards the development of air transport as an integral part of our broader economic and tourism strategy. Prague Airport is one of the country's most important gateways to the world, and its continued development is essential for maintaining our competitiveness. To fully realize this potential, the modernization of Prague Airport must continue. Expanding capacity and improving accessibility, including a new direct rail connection to the city center, will strengthen the competitiveness of Czechia and support long-term economic growth. These are investments in our future. The future of aviation also depends on cooperation. Governments, airports, airlines, and tourism organizations all have a role to play. Our touchpoint initiatives, which brings together Prague Airport, Czech tourism, and Prague city tourism, shows how strategic cooperation can deliver tangible results and strengthen the international connectivity on our country. Ladies and gentlemen, hosting the ACI Europe Congress and General Assembly in Prague sends a strong message. It confirms the Czech Republic's growing importance within European aviation and underlines our ambition to remain a modern, competitive, and well-connected country at the heart of Europe. Thank you for your attention.
Minister Mrázová, thank you very much for those words. Now we're going to move to Mr. Jankovec, Director General of ACI Europe.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Jiří. As I mentioned earlier, we are thrilled to be in Prague, to be back in Prague and bring the entire airport community to this city, to this country. I think we're taking stock, of course, with this event of the position of Europe's airports. We see we're facing a new reality with a new aviation market structure, the influence of geopolitics and national policies as well. And indeed, I think what we see is much more disruptive risk for the industry, coming from security, from climate, from the geopolitical environment, but also much more competitive pressures. As you know, and you know it well in the Czech Republic, the airline landscape has been changing a lot and keeps changing a lot. We're going through yet another wave of consolidation. Czech airline went bankrupt, and what we're seeing is less airlines but more dominant airlines, which is putting a lot of pressure on airports and in particular their aeronautical revenues. I think in that context for us, the importance is to preserve our capacity to keep investing for the future. Because when you do airport investment, you're not investing for the next 2-3 years. You're projecting yourself over the next 15, 20, 30 years. And that's key not just for the airports and aviation, but that's really key for the competitiveness of the country in which you operate. And I think, of course, Prague is a very good example. We know that for many airports in Europe, it's very difficult to get the permission to build, to expand. In Prague, we have a clear project to move forward, and I think this is going to be really an important project for the Czech Republic and Prague City. Having said that, I think what we face for us in terms of having the certainty that we can secure those investments, we need a better regulatory framework at the EU level in particular. You might have seen from the discussion this morning with the European Commission and our President that there is a plan potentially to revisit the EU Airport Charges Directive, and we're very concerned about that because this is going to open a Pandora box, and this will deprive us of the stability that we need in regulatory terms to make those investments. So that's something that we are very focused on. I think also you heard a lot about airport slots and how the rules need to change, a lot about decarbonization, how we need more policy and financial support to move on. And I think down the line this speaks about the need of, and I would like to echo the Minister's word, increased strategic cooperation across all actors, across the industry, but also with national, local governments and at the EU level.
Thank you very much, Olivier. Now we'll open the floor. If somebody would like to ask the question, please just say your name and also tell us for whom is your question directed.
Thank you. I'm George Drew from Mrázová News. My question is addressed to all of you. I would like to ask, despite all the current challenges that the industry is facing, are you optimistic about next year? And what gives you the confidence, and what are your main concerns?
Well, if I may start, we are not any more pessimistic, even though that last 2 months were difficult to think about the future. So, first of all, that also you mentioned by Olivier that fuel supply threat is actually managed. So we'll see what's going to happen, but it's a very positive outcome. And for Prague, we still have a significant number of destinations, which shows market potential for entering and developing new routes. So this year we will expect a record year, 18.6 million passengers, despite the Middle East slowdown. And even for next year, we already plan additional growth to 19.4, 19.5 million passengers, driven by additional capacity on existing routes and also some new, particularly longer routes. On our list of priorities, it's Montreal, Shanghai, and Delhi.
Would anyone else like to comment?
I think we're reasonably optimistic, but all will depend on what happens with the price of jet fuel in the coming weeks. We've seen over the past days that thanks to the deal that still needs to be fully implemented between Iran and the US, the price of jet fuel has gone down quite significantly, although it still remains much higher than it was before the conflict. So I think that's going to be a key question for airlines in deciding what kind of capacity they put into the market this winter and next year. And I think we have to wait and see what happens. As I showed this morning, this summer airlines keep adding capacity. The reason for that is that most European airlines are pretty well hedged still for the summer in terms of the price of fuel. And the second reason is that, of course, they make money during the summer. So, they have no incentives or no urge to decrease capacity during the summer, because this is where everybody's running profitably. The winter is more difficult because typically winter months is where airlines lose money. So this is where the fact that many airlines will not have the same kind of hedging coverage for the price of fuel, with the fact that the demand is less remunerative in the winter. This is where potentially becomes more tricky in terms of capacity. But we have to wait and see. And then the other thing is, as I mentioned earlier, what will happen to inflation across the board, whether consumers will be hit by significant inflationary pressures leading to a new cost of living crisis. That would obviously impact demand for air travel, especially in the winter months. But the jury is still out on this. So at the moment, the visibility is quite limited. But that's what we're looking at in terms of how things could evolve.
And maybe if I could add some information about priorities of the Czech government for the next year or years. In the first, it's a continued support to the Prague airport. The second one is the continued cooperation in the touchpoint initiatives, as I said. And the next one is that we are now working on the new building, and that should speed up the building permitting process. This is necessary also for the modernization of the Prague airport. So these are our plans for the next year.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Holly from International Airport Review, and my question is for you, Jiří. I was just wondering, how was your experience with the implementation of the EU entry-exit system? Me, myself, I came from the UK. I had a very good experience due to your self-service kiosks, and then of course I was allowed to go through the conference immigration queue. So I was just wondering, when you implemented these kiosks, what benefits you've seen and how the passenger experience is right now.
Yes, is the issue, right? It's something hits the airport operations through the continent of Europe. I have to say that we have excellent cooperation with immigration police here in Czech Republic. So trying the best possible. First is to ensure that there is a complete staffing at the passport touch points. We have a quite big team on we call it red team, the people helping to separate non-EU passengers from EU, because unfortunately Terminal 1, which is non-Schengen terminal, the arrival area, it's not enough space for queuing up, so it's quite difficult, but there's improvement. Sometimes we have waiting time about 60 minutes, but in average it's less than 40 minutes. And another important change is that British passports, also passports, American, Canadian, Taiwan and Israeli on departure are already able to go through the EasyGo gates. And we are desperately waiting for the final implementation to also let those passports and even other passports in the future to go through the EasyGo gates. There will be still demand to present the biometrics, all data. Hopefully that application will come soon, or sooner better. So it's constrained and it's harming the passenger experience on arrival. But as I mentioned, we already managed the situation. Departure is more sensitive on on-time performance. Talking about the other innovations, we have a common use cell backdrops, which is also quite unique in Europe, and getting more and more airlines on this solution, including Emirates, for example. So this is the way how we deal with the passenger experience and also with the capacity for the future. So actually we have about 20% all handlebars goes to the EasyGo cell backdrops. not mentioning CT technologies from centralized security, and we already have a pilot project on automatic boarding gates at the gate, so it helps to reduce the stuffing and improve the passenger experience.
Thank you, Mr. Boss. Any more questions right now?
Hello, Costa Sergio, I'm from a France organization. Olivier, this question is to you. Then, due of what happened in the Middle East, we saw a shifting to Europe, and that was an increase of passenger traffic to Asia direct from Europe. And also, as you said in your presentation, there is shifting of passenger traveling in Europe, then they don't want to do also long haul and so on. Do you see that will be probably permanent? Do you believe that this, let's say, area of the Gulf is damaged, the damages will not be able to recover? And you know, I already received from Etihad 1,900 to go business class long haul now. Then it's something that might be for benefit of the European airports.
Well, I think first of all, the Gulf carriers are playing an important role for Europe's economy. So as airports, we are very keen to see the connectivity reestablished in the Middle East. It plays an important role to diversify the connectivity for airports. Lots of secondary hubs or large regional airports have been welcoming the Gulf carriers, and through them have been able to develop their long-haul connectivity. So what we see is that first, as I mentioned, I think it's remarkable as to how the Gulf airports and airlines have been managing a very difficult situation, and the speed at which they are now coming back. What we hear from many airports is that the capacity is being restored back between Europe and the Middle East. The load factors are still a bit problematic, not where they used to be. But I think hopefully peace will prevail in the region, and this will allow them to get back fully and provide a connectivity that is also serving Europe. There's been some calls or voices saying that this crisis has revealed an abnormal situation in the sense of the dependence of Europe on its connectivity needs with the Gulf hubs and the Gulf airports. I don't think as airports we share that view. We need diversified connectivity, we need a competitive market, and there's no doubt that the Gulf carriers have played an important role in the competitiveness of the European aviation market as well.
Thank you very much, Olivier. I'm just looking if there's one last call for questions. If not, thank you very much for your attention, and I'm being told